Hello again. Welcome back to episode 35, Logic. Well, this should be interesting, Logic. So this comes from James Frederick out of Kate Gonzalez's office in North Carolina. And James asks a pretty frequent question. How do you push through the worst times in business? And it got me thinking, like, why is this question asked so often? And I'm like, oh yeah, because it's tough work. Like, this isn't easy. Dealing with rejection is not something people look forward to. Made me think of the time years ago, one of my favorite postmen, in Los Angeles, Barry. I remember Barry'd come into my office every day delivering the mail. Always had such a great attitude. We'd watch some Lakers highlights on my big screen in the office and really got to know Barry. And one time I wanted to test Barry, and so Barry came into the office. I'm like, no, Barry, I'm not interested. He's like, what are you talking about? No, whatever you have, no, I'm not interested. You have bills for me? Not interested. And he's like, dude, are you sniffing glue? Like, what's the problem? And I asked him, like, hey, Barry, has anybody ever rejected you? Has anybody ever, like, turned you away? And he's like, no, nobody rejects the mailman. I'm like, yeah, there's no rejection in that. Funny enough, years later, we had the post office approach us. Okay, the post office approached us asking if we could represent them. We're like, oh, the post office wants us to represent them? Yeah, they lost 95% of the overnight shipping business to the big companies of UPS and FedEx. Okay, the overnight shipping business, they lost to them. USPS wanted us to go win those people back. Can you do a campaign? And so we're thinking, like, listen, you've got 1 million employees that work in your company. You want to talk about tight to the right. I mean, you guys go into every business across the country every day. You go into every residential neighborhood every day. What do you need us for? Like, you have representation. And they're like, yeah, listen, like, we can hire people to go deliver mail, no problem. That is our field of expertise. But to hire somebody to go into a hostile environment where there's rejection, no, that's not our field of expertise. We need to hire the experts to do that. And it's just sort of reaffirmed the industry that we're in. I mean, as soon as the field has more yeses than nos is the minute we don't have a business model anymore. There will always be more no's than yeses. The field hasn't really changed much over the years. It's always heavy with the no's and light on the yeses. And that's why we have an opportunity. Got to grind through that. So again, just makes me think, just want to start off with, if it is hard, it is good. If it's easy, let's get into that here in this segment. But when it's hard, that can be a good thing, okay? So I got thinking of some of the stories when I was, in the field. And so I couldn't help but think of this one story that I want to share with you guys. I'm in my car, okay? And you've probably heard this saying before. If you haven't heard this before, let me be the first to share. The hardest door to open is the car door, okay? So yeah, it's always the hardest door to open. It's never any other door. It's just opening that car door. The mental torture of just thinking too much, in the car. Before I go too deep into this story, I just want to throw a little interesting piece here. Eric Greitens, I got to know this guy. I've met him. I've heard him speak at a couple of our seminars. He's authored a handful of books. I've got The Warrior's Heart here. He's a Navy SEAL graduate. He was a Navy SEAL trainer. Now he's into politics. I think he's trying to be a senator. But anyway, Eric Greitens, he spoke of what it's like going through BUD/S and what's it like, being a Navy SEAL. And he had this unbelievable PowerPoint with pictures and videos, and he's describing, how difficult it is to go through Navy SEAL training. And only the best of the best sign up. And out of those people that sign up, like, it is a grind, one of the hardest training regiments on the planet. What's interesting is during the training, there's always a truck, within a stone's throw away, there's always a truck. On the back of the truck is a bell that at any point in time, if training's too difficult, you walk over to this truck, you ring the bell saying, I tap out, I'm out. They'll put a nice warm blanket around you. They'll give you a cup of hot chocolate. You can now be comfortable, no problem. They're not going to shame you or anything like that. You're not going to be a Navy SEAL. Welcome to the civilian life, be comfortable, but you're not going to go through, you're not going to be a SEAL. You're not going to have that status. You're not going to have that privilege. You're not going to be that warrior. And so he's describing some of these difficult training moments, from the lack of sleep, okay? Like these guys are completely sleep deprived. And I remember the story of when they're in the water, okay? So they zip line your feet, so your feet are tied together, your hands are tied behind your back, and you got to jump in the water and you got to tread water like a dolphin, okay? Like, gee, have you ever tried staying afloat just using, your arms and legs like that? Like, can't whip your feet, you got to tread water again like a dolphin. And they throw your mask into the deep end, and you got to go retrieve that mask with your teeth and then swim back up and tread water with that mask. And I'm like, man, this is insane how hard they push these guys. Okay, so again, he does a really good job of capturing the audience, like you're visualizing this and you're just watching this crazy training. Then he says there's a time that, they do the training down in off the coast in San Diego. So they line up all the trainees, on the beach during the sunset, and they've got the instructor with a megaphone, so they're all lined up. You're looking out at the ocean, watching the sun set. Tonight is gonna be hell. This is gonna be the worst night of your life. Like, the guy's intent is to just get in your head. And Eric describes that there's no time greater than that time when people tap out and go ring the bell. He's like, it's not in the act of doing that people quit, it's in the act of thinking that people quit. And that really hit me. Like, really, that's the time when people quit. When they're thinking about what's coming, it's not when they're actually doing, it's the thinking that can cause us so much pain. So I wish I would have actually heard Eric, as a leader. This would have helped in my, car torture that I was going through. But anyway, nonetheless, there I was in the car, and I'm just thinking about how much life sucks. And I don't want to do this anymore. This is just too difficult. And so I'm rehearsing, okay, what the quitting speech is going to look like. Okay, so I know that's going to be an awkward moment. I mean, people have invested in me. They put a lot in me. I mean, I don't want to let people down and stuff, but I just can't do this anymore. I'm tapping out. And so I'm rehearsing what that speech is going to look like. And I'm going to hear things like, Jamie, winners never quit and quitters never win. Okay, got it. I'm just I'm a loser, I guess. What can I say? So I'm picturing what that 10 minutes of torture is going to look like, but eventually that's going to come to an end, okay? And so that chapter is done, and then, okay, so what's next after that awkward conversation? Well, what's next is I got to find something to do. Okay, so before I start looking for my next gig, have you learned anything from this? Like, why is it exactly that you're leaving? And I'm like, okay, what is it exactly? Well, my number one gripe, man, the hours, man, the amount of hours I'm putting in, it's insane. Like, it's not a normal thing. It's like a lifestyle that I'm giving myself to. I don't know how many hours, I wasn't tracking it, but let's just guess it was 80 plus hours per week that I'm putting in. And I'm certainly not getting paid like I'm putting in 80 hours. So I am overworked. So if I've learned anything, man, I need to claw that back down so I can have a normal life. I'm looking for something that's going to be around 40 hours a week. And if I've learned anything else, well, listen, there's a lot of stress in up and down pay. A lot of stress. Some weeks are great. Oh yeah, love commissions, love performance-driven pay. And there's some weeks I just absolutely hate it. So if I've learned anything, I need to find something that's going to be around, 40 hours a week that's going to pay me on an hourly or salary basis. And if there's a third thing I've learned through this, listen, I don't want something difficult. I don't like the mental torture of having to sell myself, and I don't like rejection. I don't like being rejected over and over and over again. So I'm looking for something easy. Okay, so let's kind of recap this. I'm looking for something that's going to be 40 hours a week, paid on an hourly or salary basis, and something that's not difficult. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be poor. I'm going to be broke. That is the recipe, that is the formula for being broke. I want something easy. Listen, if it's easy, you're very easily replaceable. 40 hours a week, hourly or salary. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be poor. So logic kept me in the game. I'd love to tell you how this story ended. I'm like, I'm thinking through this and I'm like, you know what? And I kicked open that car door. I'm going to go save the day. And I put on my Superman cape and I went out there and kicked some major butt. But that's not how the story goes. I sheepishly opened the car door. Okay, so I crack it open. I'm out there. I slither my way to the door, and my pitch sounds something like, "Hey, ma'am, you're probably not interested, but..." And I spent the rest of the day just slothing my way through the field, not having the greatest production day as you can imagine, but I didn't quit. I mean, that's really the key. I logically kept myself in the game. So I think it's a good rule of thumb. When it comes to important decisions in life, you probably don't want to be emotional when you have to make those decisions. You probably want to be logical when it comes to important decisions like where should I work, who should I marry, the important ones in life. So that's kind of my thought process on using logic as your weapon, okay? And getting yourself in a position where emotions aren't going to rule you. As a little bonus track, I want to throw this out there. If you're not following Patrick Bet-David or listening to his stuff, you should. Anybody that's an entrepreneur, anybody who's in business, Patrick just has gold from his podcast to his videos. Obviously I'm a big fan and a big friend of Patrick Bet-David. And he said something, he tweeted this not so long ago. I want to share this with you guys. He says, whether you're in a season of many victories or a season of many setbacks, this too shall pass. Be patient, future is still bright. Okay? Momentum is the great exaggerator. If you've got negative momentum, you look worse than you really are. If you have positive momentum, you look better than you really are. Momentum is the great exaggerator. So when things are really tough and you're at the worst times, and chances are you got a lot of really negative momentum, listen, that's not really representative of who you are. It's just exaggerated. So you got to be patient. You got to stick. You got to look for the little wins and slowly turn that ship around till you can have some positive momentum and get some good traction. So I want to throw that little bonus track at you on, sometimes you just got to stop the negative momentum. Just come to an end. And again, it's the little wins that will help you turn that ship around. So I think what Patrick said in that statement is very true. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Keep the stuff coming. I love the engagement. Either email me or text me the questions or comments. I'm really trying to do my part to help you guys. So hope you enjoyed. That's it for now.